Hello, beautiful, curious, and creatives. Thank you so much for joining me in my studio today. I am here to give you a quick peek at Grace. Grace is 7.5 inches wide and just about 10 inches tall. She is 5 signatures beautiful of about 72 pages. And in addition to that, she has vintage fabrics, linens, doilies included as well. She is full of vintage ephemera, vintage papers, stitch details. She has tails. She has decorated pages, tucks, tags, you name it, decorated clips, and a ton of vintage inspired elements as well. She's got collaging and clusters also. Her cover is made up of a mixed media altered and repurposed piece of cardboard, which I love, and beautiful, beautiful vintage laces and other linens. And as I mentioned, she has tails everywhere. Her spine and mouth are about 4 inches beautiful. And this is her back with tails. Her closure is also a coffee dyed a strip of fabric. Okay, so here she is, and I want to let you have a peek inside. So let's do it. Well, before we do that, let me just show you. The cover also has a tucked in journaling card here, which is pretty typical of my work as well. All right, shall we? Let's take a look at her. This is the second time that I am recording this video because we had a little bit of excitement here in the Northeast a little while ago. We had a bit of an earthquake, a 4.8, a little bit of shaking, and I am on the 3rd floor of my home, and it took me aback a little bit, but everything's fine. We were just, I think the general sentiment is that we were a little shook up, no pun intended. Earthquakes here in the Northeast are, I don't think they're very common, and you know, we're so overpopulated that it's a little scary in our tall buildings. But anyway, back to this beauty. Hopefully the second time's a charm for the video. The inside cover is a piece of vintage ledger paper, vintage linen. Not probably going to take everything out, but just kind of go over it. This is quickly. This is a beautiful piece of original ledger paper, and it has all kinds of coloring and markings, and oh, it's just stunning, just stunning. And there's a little cluster of vintage linen and a magazine image. This is some homemade vintage inspired tape, and here is a class picture from 1904, 1905, and it's original vintage clipped onto some decorative paper. There are a lot throughout the book, collaged pages, and this is one of them, so I'll just refer to them as that. And they do have mixed elements of newer papers and vintage inspired papers. Another piece of vintage linen, vellum paper, another one of those collage pages. This is authentic vintage book page and some stenciled vellum, which I love, an altered envelope with some of that homemade tape, original vintage receipt, and this is one of my original tags, clipped on by a bulldog clip. And on the flip side, there is a copy of a ledger paper that I own, and it's copied onto vellum paper, and I just love the way it sounds. some original tags, and journaling space. And an altered little sack with some vintage trim and a belly band on a piece of vellum paper. Vintage fabric. Vintage ephemera, original vintage ephemera, in an altered, clipped onto an envelope, an altered envelope, and an altered paper clip that I made. And this is so cute because it has a little tuck here for some goodies. And they just came out so sweet. So that's that. On the other side is the window of the envelope, slightly decorated, vintage inspired, vintage paper, and an original tag with some decorative paper. The end of the first signature, second signature. It has, Grace has a lot of coffee dyed papers throughout. This is vintage ephemera. And this is an original vintage book page. And this is a tuck spot here. And I'm going to put some goodies in here. This is a cluster of vintage inspired papers held together by a little bulb clip. Can you see it? Yeah, it's upside down, but it's there. And here's a bucket. This can actually go in here, right? Like that. Vintage trim, music sheet, embossed paper on a vellum doily with a rusty paper clip. And here is a tag that has also been embossed. It's vellum, and actually the inside is lined with vintage lace. You can see that there. And we'll put it here. Another paper with different elements on it, collage paper, and this is some vintage music sheet that makes up a tag, repurposed packaging for journaling space, and a fussy cut of everybody's favorite nature book, which is an Edith Holden's book. A page from a vintage magazine, which is Ideals, and I love working with Ideals magazines. They have beautiful imagery, beautiful poetry, and you'll see a couple more throughout the book here. This is an altered envelope, and I replaced the plastic and stitched the back, added it to a piece of coffee dyed paper for some interest and journaling space. Just another way to alter an envelope. And this is another one of those adorable paper clips with the little goodies, and this one's on this side, obviously. I think I'm going to be doing a series of 3 things, 3 ways, and shooting for Monday being the first one. I am almost certain that one of the things that I'm going to be doing will be envelopes, just because I am so partial to them, and I love working and altering envelopes. And another one will be paper clips as well. So hopefully you'll tune in for that, and if I stay on target and my courage doesn't disappear to do another craft along, I will be putting that out on Monday. So keep on the lookout. More vintage ephemera here in this little pocket. And I love these papers. They're so delicate. And this is the end of the second signature. More vintage trim. And this is another layered page, some sewing paper, coffee dyed paper, Amazon packaging, a piece of ledger paper with a stamped image on it. And I think there's a bit of newspaper here also, vintage newspaper, very vintage newspaper. On the flip side of that is a pocket with an envelope from 1949 addressed to Midland Park in the state of New Jersey, where I reside. And this is an original tag on this pocket here. And this is just a little bit of a tuck spot with some coffee dyed book page that's also been embossed and a magazine image. And in here, there's a piece of vintage ephemera as well. More ledger paper clipped onto a bit of an embossed piece of paper. And this envelope is functional as well underneath here. A beautiful magazine image on the other side with this beautiful, beautiful piece of, and the word is escaping me now. Oh, geez. But anyway, I know you know what this is. It's going to come to me. I'm not going to get hung up on that. Vintage lace, old book page, layered page. And this is a beautiful doily, vintage doily. And this is one of those inserts that I made. And in my last video, this one is a little more decorated. The front is very decorated, and it's 3 pieces of paper, just like the one that I made on the video. Slightly decorated with some, this, by the way, sorry, is an applique. Yes, that's what it is, but you knew that. And it just came to me. So this one has journaling space here. It has a pocket between the first and second sheet of paper with some goodies in there for extra journaling space, and a pocket between the second and third piece of paper. And this can be, you know, creative space, or it can be turned into journaling space as well. And this one is just a little fancier because I made a bit of a closure for it. Okay, I'm going to put it here. I'll come back to it. An original vintage ephemera from 1902. Tucked under a little packaging doily with a butterfly applique. A floating little card for journaling space. More creative space. And here there is a large paper clipped that holds things on both sides. This is the bottom of a paper bag that I just wrapped around here. I'm gonna tuck this in here with a safety pin, and it has a little, the button doesn't always want to cooperate, a little star button there, if you can see that, right? And so this is a piece of deli paper folded, and inside is stuffed with all kinds of paper. Vintage, newer papers, vintage inspired papers, and a piece of beautiful Braille paper as well. And so the clip goes on both sides, as I mentioned, and then on the other side there is a journaling card and an original tag with some vintage paper. Here's the decorated page, a vellum doily. This is an embossed strip of paper and another one of those beautiful butterfly appliques. More vintage linens, vintage book page. Here is a pocket with vintage wallpaper. And on the other side, there is another beautiful page from an Ideals magazine. And paper clipped to it is some original vintage ephemera and a piece of vellum with a copy of a ledger page, vintage ledger page, which I own. And again, love the way it sounds. And so that is clipped onto here. And here we have another piece of deli paper, and this is turned into an envelope. This is layered and collaged pages And inside there is some embossed papers, and this is the negative of some of the die cuts that I've used in the book that could be used as a stencil. I do that, and I don't know, I'm sure there are people that enjoy that too. So I just put it in there. A fold over with a piece of vintage book page, and this is a bit of a cluster, a layer clustered of different papers as well. Some painted book page, vintage inspired pages, coffee dyed music sheet, and an altered paper clip. And this is a banner style paper clip again, and a rusted safety pin here. Another layered page with excuse me, different types of paper, a stamped image on a piece of ledger paper, vintage music sheet, and this strip here, this yellow gold, is handmade paper. Oh, can you see it? It's just, it's so gorgeous. And braille paper in the back. And here is a pocket with just some pieces of paper, vintage music sheet and decorative paper, and a packaging doily clipped by a oh, the words are just escaping me, a rusty paper clip. The other side of that deli paper, a pocket with more embossed papers, coffee dyed paper, and this is a copy of a letter that I own from 1919 on beautiful linen paper. And so that goes here as well. More coffee dyed paper, layered clusters, stamped image on ledger paper, vintage ledger paper, a rusty safety pin, and more vintage linens, magazine image, another beautiful butterfly applique, a layered page, and here is another layered page with some vintage ledger paper, vintage linen on coffee dyed paper, and this beautiful little image of antique typewriters. My sweet friend Beth gifted me some of those, and this is actually the first one that I've used because I am just hoarding them. I hoard them, and I didn't mind parting with this one because I just thought it would be such a nice addition to Grace, and it does look beautiful there. And this is another layered page with some vintage lace, a magazine image, and vintage papers. More creative space back here. Some vintage lace, vellum with a coffee filter, a rusty paper clip, and this is just back here. This is some stitched packaging, a stitch flip out, and here is a pocket, a glassine bag with a pocket of different types of papers, with different goodies in here. Vintage and vintage is inspired as well. And here is a low pocket with this beautiful piece of vintage coffee dyed dictionary page that my sweet friend Beth also gifted to me, and I have been hoarding, but I was happy to put in this book because I just think it looks beautiful in here. And Grace is sort of becoming the book of letting go of some hoarded things, I think. Here is another piece of vintage linen with a beautiful vintage magazine, book page rather, not magazine, and an altered envelope. I did not put anything in this one because I decorated it and I just kind of locked. I loved the way it looked like this, but something certainly fits in here, and can be tucked in there. And as we near the end of the book, a little flip up with some vintage linen, vellum, and vintage inspired papers with more of that tape, with a beautiful little saying that says, "You are strong enough to face it all, even if it doesn't feel like it right now." And so that goes in there. And on the other side of that is another low pocket with a piece of vintage music paper and another fussy cut of everybody's favorite nature book by Edith Holden. And here, and this is just some packaging kind of curled up and stitched on this piece of paper. And on this page here is another beautiful little image of these sweet kids, and it is of a publication from November 5th, 1899, and I have also been hoarding this forever. And here it goes. It's part of this beautiful book, and I think it looks gorgeous here. More vintage ephemera, and just a little piece of painting that I was fooling around with at some point, and I just put it there for a little bit of pop of color. Paper clipped with a rusty paper clip onto this vellum sheet, and this is a vintage music flashcard. More beautiful lace. And the last page of the book, thank you so much for indulging me, is another collage piece of paper with an envelope attached to it. There is some original vintage ephemera in here, a butterfly that's clipped onto this envelope. This is the back in not functioning, but it offers creative space. And I just wanted to bring to your attention this beautiful strip of homemade tape that I made. It is so gorgeous, so gorgeous, I think. And I had so much fun making it. And just the texture is amazing. So I am hoarding a little bit of that, but it looks so beautiful there. That piece, I love it. I love the way that came out. More vintage linen, and the inside of the back cover is just as the front cover, the inside of the front cover, vintage ledger paper, and you can see the stitching and tails and all kinds of beauty that is in this gorgeous book. Thank you so much for being here with me, for hanging on. I hope you enjoyed the flip through. Grace is for sale, and she will make a beautiful addition in anyone's creative space, because she is just not only gorgeous, but has tons of empty space for someone to love her and make her their own. Thank you so much. I hope to be back on Monday with a craft with me, and I hope you're here with me again next time.